Event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has presented his vision of a victorious Algeria, assuring that he will raise the level of his ambitions during his second term in office. At the 10th Emergency Special Session on Palestine, Algeria said that the Israeli occupying power openly denies the rights of the Palestinian people and seeks to undermine the establishment of their state. 12 people have died and more than 2,800 others have been injured due to the explosion of the pages as a result of Israeli hacking. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Abdelmadjid Tebboune, has presented his vision of a victorious Algeria, assuring that he will raise the level of his ambitions during his second term in office. Assia Bekkar has more details in this report.
In a speech delivered at the Palace of Nations after taking the oath of office, the President of the Republic presented his vision of the project he had put forward during the election campaign, assuring that he would remain faithful to this project for a victorious Algeria thanks to its great people and its youth. He added that Algeria was exhausted before the past 5 years, but thanks to its people and institutions, it could overcome the previous excesses that led to losing trust in the state's institutions.
وقد اجتزنا ظروفا صعبة ودعتنا جميعا في ال5 سنوات الماضية أمام تحدي الانتقال بالجزائر المخدوعة والمنهكة نتيجة تفشي الانحرافات والانتقال بفضل الله وشعبنا الكريم ومؤسسات الجمهورية من أجواء اليأس والإحباط ومن حالة انهيار الثقة في رموز الدولة ومؤسساتها واستشراء الفساد ونهب المال العام إلى جزائر جديدة، جزائر ينتعش فيها الأمل ويستعيد فيها الثقة في الدولة وهيبتها بصدق القول المتبوع بالعمل والمقرون بتجسيد الالتزامات 54 التي تعهدنا بها أمام الشعب.
The President of the Republic underlined the weight of the responsibility that he continues to assume out of loyalty to the trust of the people and loyalty to the homeland, especially as it comes at a delicate time marked by domestic, regional and international challenges, hence the imperative to mobilize energies and capacities to add other achievements and gains to the previous mandate.
إن الأمانة التي أستمر في حملها بوفاء لثقة الشعب وإخلاص للوطن والعهد الثانية الذي يقع مجددا على عاتقي بتفويض وثقة منكم في هذه المرحلة الحساسة لما يميزها من تحديات على المستوى الداخلي والصعيدين الإقليمي والدولي. إن تلك الأمانة وذلك العهد يدعواني في هذه المرحلة لشحذ العزائم وحشد القدرات من أجل تعزيز رصيد الإنجازات والمكاسب التي حققناها في العهدة المنتهية، وهي إنجازات ومكاسب واضحة لا يخفيها نكران ولا يحجبها تدليس.
He went on to say that during his second term in office, he would endeavor to engage in a national dialogue, enabling us to map out together the path our country will take towards the enshrinement of true democracy, not the democracy of slogans.
إن شاء الله من خلال العهدة الثانية هاته وفي ظروف تسمح لنا بذلك سنقوم باتصالات كثيفة واستشارات مع كل طاقات الحية للوطن، السياسية منها والاقتصادية والشبانية، أن ندخل في حوار وطني مفتوح لنخطط معا المسيرة التي ستنتهجها بلادنا فيما يخص تجسيد الديمقراطية الحقة، مش ديمقراطية شعارات، ديمقراطية التي تعطي السيادة حقيقة لمن يستحقها.
He also pointed out that the processes of economic development and social advancement have begun in the new Algeria despite the exceptional circumstances, underlining that national projects are now a reality, enabling our country to achieve further success and accomplish other achievements in various fields. Highlighting the significant improvement in the investment climate in Algeria, the President of the Republic spoke of 9,000 investment projects, some of which are already underway, which will help to create wealth and jobs, with the industrial sector expected to contribute 12% of GDP.
بالنسبة للاستثمارات، الجو الحالي من الاستقرار والإمكانيات المالية التي تتوفر عليها البلاد أصبحت جاذبية البلاد شيء ملموس يوميا. ولما خلقنا الشباك الوحيد لابي السلطة لتشجيع الاستثمار لاجونس، وصلت اليوم إلى ما يقارب 9000 مشروع استثمار. 9000 مشروع استثمار سيجعل نسبة التنمية نتاعنا تفوق 3.5-4%، وتخلق كذلك هي بالإضافة مناصب شغل وتكون مدرة للثروة ولمناصب شغل في نفس الوقت.
With regard to the water resources sector, the President of the Republic stated that the aim was to reassure citizens at national level following the reception of 5 major desalination plants and the launch of the construction of other plants, praising the national executives who had made the management of the seawaters desalination sector 100% Algerian management. In this context, he pointed out that during his first term of office, Algeria achieved one of the highest growth rates in the Mediterranean region, which has been confirmed and praised by the relevant international and regional bodies. The President of the Republic also reaffirmed his commitment to protecting the purchasing power of citizens by fighting inflation, controlling prices, particularly those of basic products, and increasing allowances and salaries to reach 100% before the end of his term of office. At the end of his speech, the President of the Republic announced that, perpetuating the good tradition that he had instituted, before the end of 2024, he would deliver an address to the nation before the 2 chambers of parliament, during which he would present all the details relating to the second mandate, as well as the economic and financial results of the first mandate.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received Prime Minister Nadir Arbawi, who presented him with the resignation of the government, and whom the President of the Republic asked to postpone the decision in order to ensure the management of urgent matters requiring the current minister's knowledge of the situation. Following his meeting with President Tebboune, Mr. Arbawi had this to say.
After his sermon, I would like to congratulate the President of the Republic once again on his re-election for a second term, and I pray to God to assist him in his noble mission in the interest of the people and the country. I was honored to be received by the President of the Republic, and I took the opportunity to hand over the government to him. The head of state asked me to postpone this decision, given that we are on the eve of the start of the social return, and that we also need to prepare the next finance bill with God's help.
That was Prime Minister Nadir Arbawi. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received at the headquarters of the Presidency of the Republic the candidates for the September 7th presidential election, Abdelali Hassani Sharif from the Movement of the Society for Peace, MSP Party, and Youssef Aouchiche from the Socialist Forces Front, FFS Party. The meeting took place after the President of the Republic had been sworn in at the Palace of Nations and had taken office as President of the Republic for a second term. Moving to the Palestinian file, the UN General Assembly is voting today on a Palestinian resolution demanding that the Israeli occupation end its unlawful presence in Gaza and the occupied West Bank within a year, withdraw its military forces, and evacuate all settlers. Jamil Silmani has the details in this report.
The General Assembly resumed its 10th emergency special session on the issue of Israeli actions in occupied East Jerusalem and the rest of the occupied Palestinian territory. Palestine introduced a draft resolution that demands an end to the occupation within 1 year. The resolution calls for Israel to pay reparations to Palestinians for the damage caused by its occupation and urges countries to take steps to prevent trade or investments that maintain Israel's presence in the territories. It also demands that the Israeli occupation be held accountable for any violations of international law, that sanctions be imposed on those responsible for maintaining Israel's presence in the territories, and for countries to hold arms exports to the occupying power if they are suspected of being used there. If the draft is adopted, the General Assembly would demand that Israel brings to an end without delay its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory, which constitutes a wrongful act of a continuing character, entailing its international responsibility, and do so no later than 12 months from the adoption of the present resolution.
At the 10th emergency special session on Palestine, Algeria said that the Israeli occupying power openly denies the rights of the Palestinian people and seeks to undermine the establishment of their states. More details with Jamil Salmani.
Algeria's ambassador to the UN, Mr. Ammar Benjama, which serves as a non-permanent UN Security Council member, has said the meeting is a stark reminder of the importance of multilateral action.
We gather today to discuss the question of Palestine, a stark reminder of the importance of multilateral action, but at the same time, a proof of the limits of its frameworks, including these very United Nations. On the one hand, without the international law, without the global fora of nations, the Palestinian cause would have faded into oblivion in a world dominated by narrow interests. On the other hand, multilateral action has shown its limitation, despite the consensus of the international community and the successive binding resolution that plainly affirm and reaffirm the Palestinian rights to self-determination, Palestinian right to their land, Palestinian right to their statehood.
Mr. Benjama has said the historic International Court of Justice advisory opinion challenges the Israeli occupation narrative and exposes its apartheid policies.
The occupying power openly denies the right of the Palestinian people and seeks to undermine the establishment of their states. In light of this bleak reality, which threatens to extinguish hope in the heart of the Palestinians and peace lovers around the world. The advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice came. This historic and comprehensive decision by the highest judicial body in the world challenges the Israeli occupation narrative and exposes its apartheid policies. It reaffirms the illegality of Israel occupation of Palestinian territories and the need to its end.
Algeria called on all member states to be united in support of the Palestinian people, urging them to vote in favor of the draft.
The State of Palestine submitted to the General Assembly this historic draft resolution. And this draft is historic in its significance, as it is the first resolution submitted by the State of Palestine in its national capacity in the history of the United Nations. It is another victory on the path to full membership to the United Nations. My country, Algeria, having always stood by Palestine, promptly sponsored this draft resolution and called on all members to support it, to vote in favor of it. Today, we must be united in our support, in our solidarity with the Palestinian people. We must stand together in defense of international law. We must stand united for peace.
The draft that Palestine has submitted is historic in its own right, another victory on the path to its full membership at the United Nations. Indeed, the draft provides a roadmap to end the occupation.
The Palestinian UN ambassador Riyad Mansour opened the assembly by saying Palestinians face an existential threat and claiming Israel has held them in shackles.
Palestine is an important part of universal history, and the Palestinian people is an integral part of humanity. Neither our country nor our people will disappear, but that is no excuse for ignoring the existential threat they are facing. Palestinians have carved in a reality of suffering and oppression, spaces of joy and accomplishment. Their spirit has remained free, even while they were in shackles. The law is not there to merely serve as a measuring stick of violations. It is there to prevent those violations, and when that does not work, it is there to punish them, to bring them to a halt, to ensure accountability, to ensure justice.
The Palestinian UN ambassador Riyad Mansour demanded an end to Israel's decades-long occupation and for Palestinians to be able to return home to live in peace and freedom. At the meeting on behalf of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the representative of Cameroon called for an end of the Israeli illegal occupation of Palestine.
In view of the foregoing and given the grave threat to peace and security resulting from the long-drawn Middle East crisis, for our group, it is high time that practical measures be taken to end Israel's illegal occupation of Palestine. Accordingly, our group reiterates the call by the OIC on member states of the United Nations to exert diplomatic, political, and legal pressure and take necessary deterrent measures to stop the crimes against humanity, war crimes, and ethnic cleansing committed by Israel, the occupying power, on the occupied Palestinian territory and Gaza.
If adopted, the resolution would not be legally binding, but the extent of its support would reflect world opinion. There are no vetoes in the General Assembly, unlike in the 15-member Security Council. Syria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Qusay al-Dahak, has stressed the imperative need to implement the advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice, ICJ, on the illegality of the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories and the urgent need to put an end to it. In an address at the 10th Special Session of the UN General Assembly, in his capacity as president of the Arab Group for the month of September, the Syrian diplomat stressed that the advisory opinion issued by the ICJ on July 19th regarding the legal consequences arising from the policies and practices of the Israeli occupation in the occupied Palestinian territories, including occupied Al-Quds, must be implemented, and that the occupying entity must pay compensation for the physical or moral damage inflicted on the people concerned. In addition, he expressed the Arab Group's strongest condemnation of the Israeli occupation's continuing crimes against the Palestinian people, as well as the expansion of the colonialist settlement throughout the occupied Palestinian territories and the occupied Syrian Golan Heights. Also reiterating the Arab Group's condemnation of the continuing Zionist aggression against Lebanon, the Syrian diplomat reaffirmed the group's solidarity with the Lebanese people. And now the Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, has said that the Israeli authorities were refusing to allow the employees of international organizations access to the Gaza Strip. Philippe Lazzarini affirmed that the occupation authorities have stopped giving visas to employees of international organizations, stressing that for many years, these organizations have been providing humanitarian assistance to people in need in close partnership with the United Nations. UNRWA's Commissioner General said that the Israeli occupying forces are making increasing efforts to phase out the representation from humanitarian organizations and those engaged in reporting on the atrocities of the war against Gaza and its impacts on civilians. Mr. Lazzarini stressed the need for more humanitarian workers, not fewer, as humanitarian needs continue to increase. He pointed out that this comes up on top of the ongoing ban of international media to report freely from inside Gaza, and a time when a number of senior UN officials are not given permission to visit Gaza or are prevented to travel to the West Bank, including Al-Quds. He concluded by saying that the humanitarian organizations and international media are being prevented from doing their work properly, adding that this has to end and that the restriction must be lifted. The Palestinian Health Ministry has announced that the toll of the ongoing Zionist genocidal aggression against the Gaza Strip has risen to 41,272 martyrs and 95,551 wounded. The same source added that at least 20 Palestinians have died in the last 24 hours, noting that several martyrs are still under the rubble and on the roads, and that the occupation forces are preventing ambulances and civil protection teams from helping them. The Palestinian Ministry of Health has also announced that more than 1,150 health professionals have been killed in Gaza since the start of the war on October 7, 2023. Among these, the ministry has confirmed the identity of 986 victims, while the number of martyrs continues to rise in the context of the ongoing war. And now Lebanon's Minister of Health, Firas Abiad, has announced that 12 people died and more than 2,800 others were injured when their pages exploded yesterday as a result of Zionist hacking, an attack that occurred simultaneously in several regions of Lebanon. Said Bouazi has the details.
The beepers, a paging system, exploded simultaneously in several Lebanese regions, according to the Lebanese health minister. Most of the victims were wounded in the face, the hand, the stomach, and even the eyes. The Lebanese national news agency ANI reported an unprecedented security incident that took place in the southern suburbs of Beirut, as well as in many Lebanese regions, attributing it to the Zionist entity. According to ANI, the beeper system was hacked using high technology. A source close to Hezbollah announced that hundreds of members of the Lebanese resistance movement were injured by the simultaneous explosion of their beepers in the southern suburbs of Beirut, in southern Lebanon, and in the eastern Bekaa plain. According to local media, another source close to Hezbollah said that it was a Zionist hack. The Zionist forces targeted the batteries of these beepers, which caused the explosions, according to the local television channel Al Jadid. The Iranian ambassador to Beirut, Mujtaba Amani, was among those injured, according to Iranian state television. The ambassador told us a few minutes ago that he was fine, that he was conscious, and that there was no danger for him, the television station said, adding that the ambassador's wound was superficial.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. The United Nations Children Fund, UNICEF, has said in a statement that some 3.4 million children under the age of 5 are exposed to a high risk of deadly epidemic diseases in Sudan. UNICEF representative in Sudan, Shelton Yet, said in a statement that with heavy rains and flooding in the country, diseases such as cholera, malaria, dengue fever, measles, and German measles can spread more rapidly and severely worsen the outlook for children in the affected state and beyond. More details with Zaid Bouazi.
The UNICEF representative in Sudan said that these crises are the result of a significant drop in vaccination rates and the destruction of health, water, sanitation and hygiene infrastructure due to the ongoing internal conflict, adding that the deterioration in the nutritional status of many children in Sudan puts them at even greater risk. UNICEF delivered 404,000 doses of oral cholera vaccine to Sudan on 9 September, the statement said. According to UNICEF, vaccination coverage in Sudan has fallen to around 50% compared with 85% before the internal conflict. More than 70% of hospitals in conflict-affected areas are no longer operational, and frontline health professionals have not been paid for months. Since the fighting broke out between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces in April 2023, epidemic diseases such as cholera, malaria, measles, and dengue fever have spread, resulting in hundreds of deaths. The conflict has claimed at least 16,650 lives and displaced millions of people. The Sudanese Minister of Health, Haytham Mohammed Ibrahim, officially declared a cholera epidemic in the country on 17 August. The ministry attributed the spread of cholera